Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Good day.
Good day.
How's it going, sister?
Going great. Actually, we took off and went up like out by Oatman and went rock hunting. We got invited out to go to someone's prospect or because they have the property or have the land. So we got to go hunting for we
For
got to go hunting for fire agates and stuff like that. So that was cool. We got to go digging and the guys it's sometimes it's not about what you're doing and what you're finding. It's about enjoying the joy of somebody else. This gentleman that owns this property, he's a prospector, right? And I don't know how old he is, but I'll tell you what, he gets around like nobody's business and he gets down and squats for a long time and he's digging and patient and working it's fun to sit back and watch the excitement from one person to live in that energy, to feel that energy because it was very moving for me. And he would get so excited and he'd be like, look at this. And he'd hold it in his hand. He pulled it out, this nugget, and he just held it in his hand. And he says, I'm not going to hand it to you yet. I just got to sit here and feel this for a minute. And I'm loving it because it's like a kid, right? And we forget sometimes, we get so worried about how people are looking at us and how we're being perceived that we don't allow ourselves to live in that moment. And it's like I got to have several of those moments yesterday. And he's like, and he was such a great teacher, like even like using your senses, even like going through and he says, I want you to close your eyes right now and I want you to listen because he hears this stuff when he's digging. So he's got this long screwdriver because he can dig around loosely around the dirt without damaging the gems. And so he's doing that and he says, I want you to listen to this. And he's like tapping different things. And he says, you hear this one right here? And there was a distinct sound from this from the fire agate than there was anything in the surrounding around it. Even like it doesn't matter. I need to go into all the details of the different crystals, but like having you hear it and it's like paying attention to that kind of stuff. And it's like, but that's kind of like life, right? But it's paying attention to all of our senses. It's not just being intuitive. It's we have all these senses that go on in our bodies all the time, all the time. I'm holding on to my grandson the other day, or he was sitting next to me, and I could feel a very strong within myself, very strong I would say like the root chakra, sacral area, very strong because that's where they're at. You know what I mean? And when I recognize it, I'm like, that could be so misinterpreted by someone else. It could be a predator or something like that. Because they're not telling you that they're looking for something like that. It just goes to show you they're very strong and grounded, and that's where their energy they're at right now. So it's like all this stuff has been like a lot of feeling lately. And I know I've kind of talked to you about it a little bit, feeling it's still going along the same lines, is goosebumps. Now we all get goosebumps, but it's paying attention to those goosebumps because sometimes I've gotten it where it's oddly enough, it's only happened recently where I got it like down the front of like inside of my arms, like all the doing, all that kind of area. And I don't remember what the conversation was about, so I can't tell you exactly that, but there'll be certain things like it might only go down my left side or it might go down just my back and it's paying attention to all those details with the information that we're hearing. So it kind of gives us like a construct of like a template of all this information and how we can perceive it and understand it. So it's like all of this stuff is just a totally different learning. It's just life can be so exciting, just as exciting as that. It's not about winning the lottery. It's not about the next vehicle. It's not about the next job or any of that stuff. It's about being in all those little moments that lead up to everything else. It's that journey part, but it's just sweet.
uh, we, my husband and I, earlier this month. So at the college, they have a gentleman who does a star party, and he has some magnificent telescopes. And we go and he points out a star. He's got one of those lasers, and he'll say, okay, we're going to look at this, or he'll point at it and say, this is that, and this, that, and explains all these. But then we look through the telescope. It was a full moon, a night of full moon, and his passion. So it's like when you're talking about this gentleman with the stones, um, his passion for the stars and the planets. And he said he got his first telescope when he was 12. And at that time, um, you know, it was ordered, and whatever, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was, seems like an eternity, right? At that age. And that's what he's just like, it just took forever for me to get my first telescope. And he's I think is maybe in his late 50s or so. So he's been studying the sky for a very long time, and his passion about it is like off the charts. It's so amazing, and he's just so giddy and excited about sharing his knowledge and information. And it's important for us just to practice that in our daily life, to be excited that I'm cooking a meal, or be excited that I get to go to work because of what that income is going to do for me and my family, and or just getting in the shower, right? Having running water. There's been people who don't, or people who don't have that, and just, it may not seem like over the top because it's just something, these things that we just do every day for survival. But when you bring in a little more excitement about it or passion about it, it really shifts your entire moment, and it just can be so much more fun and playful. And then when you're bringing that type of energy, you're bringing it into your home, you're bringing it into your workplace, you're bringing it into your friends, around your friends and family. So the benefits of just tapping into that energy, or higher vibrational, or having a different perspective about your life circumstances, will make a tremendous difference in our own world.
And I want to touch on passions, right? A lot of us don't even know, like I don't disagree with anything that you said, but on the other side of that, there's passion, right? A lot of us have learned to kind of stifle that and put it aside and not even look at it, because you get what you get in life and blah, blah, blah. And that's not even a true story, but it's like, it's recognizing when we're in that passion place, we know we're on our path. That's our path. And because there's so much to be gained, I find it hilarious because we haven't spoke a word to each other, but that we both had an experience with someone that's very passionate about what they're doing. And to me, that's kind of like highlighting for us to be passionate about what you're doing. And it's not to be passionate about what you're doing, it's to follow that passion, because then it's going to take you to that place. Now you're no longer just doing the job, and now you're a benefit to everybody else, because everybody else gets to enjoy that passion too. Now I was watching another girl, he's like, oh, spray this one off. Look at this one. Get this one cleaned off. And she's like, she'd roll her eyes and do it and stuff like that. She's been around him a little bit more than I have. But to me, it was a lot more than that. It was so much deeper than that. And it's to recognize I haven't followed my passions. I don't know what that looks like. I do know what it looks like, because I just got an example of it. And I do find that I'm following more and more of what I like. It's like, even yesterday, there used to be a time for me to be inside of a vehicle with somebody else while they were driving. I was constantly in a space of non-trust, right? I'm just not going to use the opposite word, so you guys can figure it out, add your own stuff in. But to be in that space where you were not enjoying the space and realizing it was Colton's last game. We watched his last baseball game. And we were coming home, and we kind of dodged around. There was an area we dodged around, and he looked over at me like, because before I would have probably said something. And he looked over at me, and I said, you know what? I don't care. Because what are we going to do? I'm going to die? Who cares? And it almost kind of like triggered a reaction. And I'm like, no. I said, feel my hands. I put my hand on him. I'm like, my hands aren't sweating. You don't understand. This is huge for me. And it's like, even yesterday, going to be a passenger, because to go on Oatman Road, it can be a little bit scary, because it can be a little bit scary for me. It was, but I made myself go through it a few weeks ago. Now this whole time we've gone.
Uh-oh. Bless you.
But went up on our own. And it's like recognizing it's just another gauge that I get to look at and recognize this has fallen away. And I know this leads up to the passion, because I couldn't see my passions if this stuff was in the way. If this stuff was hindering and weighing on my shoulders and stuff, and I'm in that space of not being in a space of joy and recognizing how amazing thing is, we are coming home and we're on our dirt road and we're kind of flying through it. And I'm like, this is what living is. This is what living is. It wasn't me running out and jumping off a cliff or anything like that. but it's living, it's being in that space and just enjoying it without having all the ideas and worries and concerns about whatever possibly could happen, instead of being in that space and just enjoying that space. And it's been, I know that this, I know for me that I couldn't get to this space of the joy and all and my path with having all this stuff on me, because it was weighing me down too much. I couldn't, it's like the path is right there. You just got to take a few more steps. And it's like, I can't, the stuff is too heavy. And we'll let go, just put it down. So it was like just recognizing a lot of that stuff. And that's all part of feeling, because I wouldn't have recognized that without taking the time to check in with my own feelings, see how I'm feeling the goosebumps. Maybe it's not even a matter of how the goosebumps are showing up when they show up. It's just a matter of me being more in tune and aware of those things. So now I'm aware of the next thing. So I'm aware that everything is a feeling thing. Intuitively, when you're using your intuition, you're not hearing, typically you don't hear a spirit like, hey, Bev, I want you to go over and talk to Amy and tell her, like, listen, you need to step on this journey. You're already on your journey, but I mean, you know what I mean? But hearing those kind of messages, a lot of times it's coming, most of the time for most people, I feel like it's coming through, and it's coming through your feelings, and it's coming through your emotions. And it's very important for us to know what we feel and what our thoughts are, and be aware of our vocabulary, because that's how they come in. That's how information comes to us. And that's how we recognize there's no confusion anymore, because now you know that that information that's coming to you is not your information. Just like me standing at my cat house, I don't even remember how many months ago, and I heard in my head, well, isn't she Moxie or something like that? And I'm like, I don't use that word. I had to actually look it up. And it wasn't a matter that I had to look it up. It was a matter of, hey, Bev, pay attention. We're sending you information right now. It's happening. And this is for you to be aware that this is not your thoughts, which also means this is information that's coming to you from something outside of you, what you might think is outside of you, but it's actually all within, right? A lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff. And I love it because it's all beneficial. We went to my son came into Phoenix, so we went to spend some time with him last weekend. And then we spent the night in Phoenix, and we went up to Payson, and it's very mountainous there. And a hike was planned. And it was when you were talking about, being in the vehicle and not having all these stressors of having somebody else drive. It was being in my body and hiking, and being aware of where I was planting my hands and my feet, and recognizing how much of my muscles I was using. And I told my husband, because we were like stepping up on some very large boulders and going down some, it was like, it wasn't just a path. It was some ups and downs and overs, and it was very enjoyable. But when we got done, we were on the path out, and I said, I'm very grateful that I've been going to the gym and my core is stronger, because I really recognize during that time how much I used it. And it was such an interesting and dynamic to be in that environment and really paying attention to my body. And as you were saying, it's like, just be here in the present moment and enjoy this. Even when somebody else is driving the vehicle, there was like 8 or 9 of us in our group. And I was just like, this is cool. And I was just in the present moment, and I was just enjoying the hike. And typically I would be the mama hen, gathering everybody, like, taking care of everybody. I was just like, go. They wanted to go because there was a nice, good stream of water going through, and they crossed, and I was like, I'm not interested in crossing that water, getting wet, and because there was another incline they were going at. I was just like, I'm just gonna hang out here. I'm just gonna wait. I'll wait here for you. You guys are good. My husband stayed too, and I told him, like, you can go. I'll be fine. I just want to hang out here. And then where I was hanging out, there were several other people that came and went, and just watching them cross the boulders, and and crossing that water. And um, some struggled. This is really interesting to sit and watch. I love just watching people. And so some struggled crossing the water. Even there was some rocks and boulders in the water, but they weren't, it's not like a clear path. Like you had to kind of really be good about navigating them. Some people struggled getting across, and other people just hopped from rock to rock and over. It was just very interesting. And so enjoying that moment and just relishing in it and not having that need to, oh, I got to take care of this, or I got to fix that, or I got to people please because they want to go across. I have to go across. Now, back in the day, yeah, absolutely, I would have proven myself good enough to do all of that, even if I didn't want to do it, I would have said yes. Okay, everybody's doing it. I'm going to do it. And I had no desire to do it, and I was okay with it. And it felt really good to be able to say, you guys go ahead. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to be good and really mean it. And it just was just like, this is great. It just felt really good to be in that space.
That's awesome. It really is. And it's just noticing that stuff. And notice I've noticed too, like when my mind at night, we've been around a full moon, so there, I know that that's a purging time. But my mind at night would start to go off onto it something, and I recognized almost immediately how it felt in my body. Almost immediately how it felt heavy, and it's like, oh, and then I would just start listening to, for me, I would just listen to the ringing in my ears, honestly. So then that brought me back into the present moment, and I was able to, and noticing how the body felt. The body totally calmed down. Everything was totally different. It's so interesting how we're like navigating this ship that we're, our vessels that we're driving in, right? Where we're here and having this human experience. And we so don't pay attention to all the details. We're not paying attention to all the gauges that are going off and the minute details. But again, I didn't get here overnight. It wasn't something that I could all of a sudden just tune into. It took time. And it's like, this is my journey, right? Doesn't mean it's going to be everybody else's journey, but this has been mine. And it's still a feeling journey for me. For me, it's all about feeling those feelings. It's allowing yourself to feel the emotions. I had a friend reach out to me. Her husband had passed. It's been like a year or 2 years ago, and she's been dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's like I'm in a space now where I just trust spirit. Like, oh, I'm like, okay, spirit, what do you want to say? And the information's there. It's like it's immediate. It's you just stop for a second and you just let the informations come in, and it's like a lot of the stuff is the stuff we've talked about. And like I said, you need to write. You need to write and just right afterwards. And then she tells me, and your mind can get in there and think, oh my, am I giving the right advice? And it's like, yeah, I am, because I trust spirit, I trust God, I trust the information that's coming to me. I wouldn't have heard the information, or I wouldn't have felt the information if it wasn't meant for me to have that information. And it's coming from a space of love, so I don't feel that it's demonic or evil or any of that kind of stuff. It's coming from a space of love. She sends me a message the next day that she says, I sat down and wrote my husband a 7-page letter, and she says, I've got so much more to write. And she says, I feel so much better, because his birthday was coming up on Friday and she was really having an emotional time. I said, you know what? Allow the emotions. It's okay. Have an emotional time. It's all right. I said, everyone's always so busy trying to tell you, keep yourself busy and find another relationship. I said, feel your emotions. Just be you. And so she felt good. And then immediately the communication that I received and the way that I received it was that he was standing over her right shoulder, and he was actually with her while she was writing all this information down, all of it. And also that, and I didn't tell her, I told her part of that, but I didn't tell her that also he didn't mean to leave. He's not that he didn't mean to leave. He's sorry for the way that he left because of the way it's affected her. He's not sorry the way he left because he shedded a suit. It's not a big deal to him, but he's sorry for how it made her feel, how she's put so much stress on herself or responsibility on herself. And it's like, that's her journey, right? Because it is. Just like it was my journey after Jim died, for me to go through my emotions and feel these things and feel a lot of my emotions are regrets. I'm noticing right as soon as I'm talking about this, my
Yeah.
throat wants to clear, but it's good because it's clearing out.
Yeah.
I keep telling everybody it's so important right now. And I feel like a lot of people, where's most of attention at in people, and you've even talked about it. It's in our shoulder area. It's in our neck area. Well, that's our throat chakra area. That's between our third eye and our heart chakra. And this area is like, this like gives voice to our heart and the information that's coming in right through our crown into our third eye and from our heart. So it's like, it's so important for us. It can get so mucked up because maybe somebody drove by and you like were quiet about what you were thinking in your head because the way they were driving and they ticked you off or they got too close or whatever, or hit a trigger or whatever. And then you had a response, but you kept that response inside. Well, we don't have to say those things. We can hum, we can sing, we can write. And that's why I carry a notebook all the time. Before I have been calling home, and like if I had something that would triggered me, I was like, all over Freeman, telling him all that stuff. And it's like, it's not to do that anymore. It's to put it down on paper. It's not to put it into words like that. It's to get it out, but we don't have to get it out and dump it on somebody else. Because when we're dumping that energy on someone else, if they're being empathetic or compassionate with you, they might be picking up some of that information. And now you've shifted their gears, maybe lowered them a little bit. And that's not my intention to go out into the world with that information. It's to go out and be more of a loving person. And it's like, if I can't be loving in my words, then I can write down stuff just to purge the body, like I'm downloading it and I'm just going to throw it away. I'm just putting it into the trash. I'm sending it love and light and setting it up and being done with it. I'm not keeping it in there and cycling it over and over and over again, trying to find some way to soothe myself with that information.
Yeah. You know what? I'm really glad you said that, because on Friday there was some stuff that happened at work and involving another a coworker, and I got very frustrated and I kept it to myself. My boss could tell there was something off. She's like, "What's the matter?" And I just said, I shook my head and kept walking. So nothing. And then there were other things that compiled onto that. And so by the time the day was over, everybody had left and it was me and my boss. And I just like puked on her, the frustrations. And I noticed it didn't feel good when I was doing it, but it felt good that I was getting it out. And the idea of, instead of projecting that onto somebody else, to write it out. And see, there's these things, we talk about it frequently, right? Then it's like we need these reminders sometimes. And so I like that too. And maybe just go back to my desk and just write out some, whatever my frustrations are with, or whatever's going on, or however I'm perceiving it. And do that instead of just dumping on somebody. So thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. It's just been a recent practice of mine. It's just, you're welcome. It's been so freeing. It feels so freeing for me. And I express myself with that. Also, I had a person come in, and I'm very close with her and everything else, but everything that she was saying was like, wow. And it was so, and it's like any information that I would kind of, well, what if, or maybe, and it's like, nope. It was like all that stuff. But then I remembered we're the metronome. So no matter what, the longer but somebody stays in that space, whatever that space is, whatever that frequency is, they're going to start matching that frequency, period. Unless you're really setting your intention. Matt Kahn says you can go through willy-nilly and let the whole world, basically, he didn't say it like this, but you let the whole world take you on this freaking roller coaster ride, or you can set your intentions for how you would like to see your day. Yeah. Not that it's ever going to play out that way, and it's always going to be so much better, more better than you could ever have possibly imagined it to have been. But it's like this person, and then I watched, so I was starting to get I started to get a little bit agitated, but then I realized now I'm feeling this person's energy. So I kind of backed up and I asked Archangel Michael, because that was, for me, that's a boundary. So I can, until I can just do it on my own, I don't have to think about this stuff anymore. That was my Archangel Michael come in and help surround me, help me keep and maintain my energy, help me raise my vibrational frequency even higher. And as I'm doing this, her conversation changed. Everything changed. Yeah. And all I had to do was back off and set back a bit from it, and then allow her to have her space. And then by the time she left, it was like she felt so much better for me in my space. And I didn't have to do anything besides I had to check in with myself. And I'm constantly saying, isn't that interesting? If something happens like that, man, I'm telling you what, it so deflates the whole thing, right? I've heard it from Suzanne. I've heard it from you. Like, isn't that interesting? Instead of claiming it and taking it on as your own, just to say, isn't that interesting? And then you kind of look at it differently. And I'm talking to, I don't even call it God anymore. I use Suzanne's. She calls God joy. And it's like, that feels amazing to me. So I'm like, okay, Joy, how are we going to go through this day? Okay, Joy, how about this? Joy, this is what I'm feeling right now or sensing. How can I have more joy? Like, I'm just going through that process, and it's, and I'm noticing a difference with the way that I feel and the way that everybody is around me.
And I've been pretty consistent about whether it's a high or low moment, right? It's how can my life get better than this? This feels amazing. How can it get even better? And I just been doing that over and over. And some of the things that's been coming up has been pretty awesome. It's like, wow, even went on that hike as I'm hiking along. Like, wow, this is great. How can my life get even better? How can it get even better than this? And and I feel that, like, I put a smile on my face and I feel that in my body. Like, this is, and even in those, I've had some lower moments and I'm like, okay, how can my life get better than this? Because I know it is and it can. And just knowing the possibilities, and not having the expectation of it needs to look a certain way. It's having the openness of, I'm open to whatever comes to me, and acknowledge it. So that's been the other piece of it. How can my life get better than this? And then when something happens, wow, that was awesome, right? That was fun. That was incredible. That was surprising. That was enjoyable, right? To whether you want to label it or judge it, but acknowledge it, just to embrace, um in gratitude, really is practicing gratitude for that. Good things are happening, and they've been happening my entire life, but I've not been focused on them. So
Which is that's part of another conversation that I was having with this same person. It's like, or even my granddaughter, like coming home, like we picked her up from school, and I didn't know well, then her mom told me that she had dyes that day. So then that made sense because she gets very emotional. But we picked her up from school and everything out of her mouth was nothing that was positive. I mean, nothing that was a higher thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. I said, hey, what good things happened today? Oh, nothing. I said, oh, but I know mom took you to In and Out for you guys went to lunch together. Oh, she said that was good. And then she immediately went to the other stuff. And then, then my grandson, he's like pipes in and he starts talking about all the good stuff. And I feel like he was making up some stuff, but it doesn't matter. Make up your stuff. If you want to make up stuff that makes you feel good and it boosts your energy and it puts you into a higher vibration, guess what? More and more things that he's building right now, he's creating with those words, not even knowing it. And it's okay. That's okay. And then have her having a bit of a meltdown here, and I didn't go over and console her, because if she came to me, I would have held her and hugged her. But she was throwing a temper tantrum, and she went off huffing and puffing and was going to go sit somewhere, which is great. And I told her, I just waited for her to come back, and I watched Colton. He kept looking over at her, make sure she was okay, like, because he's at that people pleasing stage. He's learned the way that he's been raised so far to cater to her. Really, he has been taught that. I don't know if they realize it. It's not. I mean, it's all their journey. But I try to give him empowering stuff, and then say, I just told him, I said, let her have her space. I said she'll come around when she's ready, regardless of whatever she's eating. And she finally did come around, and her whole attitude changed, and she was in a better mood and stuff like that. But I wasn't going to go over and have those conversations with her and try to control it. And then she shifted. She just totally shifted, and because it's I was listening to some stuff in there, and it talks about building confidence for kids. We've got to figure out with ourselves how to soothe ourselves in a lot of ways. And if we can't, then we reach out and talk, right? Then we reach out and we burn a paper, or we rip up a paper after we've written stuff on it. But we're the teachers in a lot of this stuff. They know so much more than this earthly experience, but they don't know the earthly experience. And they're teaching us a different perspective on this earthly experience, a different way of looking at things. And it's also seeing that I've probably shown up that same way. maybe I don't look exactly the same way when I'm doing it, but I show up the same way. I'm still having my temper tantrums. I'm still having my things that I'm dealing with. And isn't that interesting? But it's like, it's just fun because it's just seeing how everything's playing out. And all of that was a lesson for everybody. And what if, like, we don't know our journeys and how they're going to look. But even if our guides came in and said, "Hey, Amy, you're going to meet this guy at this class and he's going to talk about stars and he's going to have so much passion and you're just going to find, you're going to be thrilled by it." When you sit back and you hear that, it's like, whatever. I want to go find the crystals. Like, where, show me where to find the crystals. I want to find my stuff. And well, I did say a few times, well, I didn't really find anything, but it's like, what I found was all that passion. What I found was the joy of a person. What I found was someone being so willing, doesn't matter what age, to share their inner child, not even knowing that they're sharing their inner child with everybody else. And then having all that joy with my grandkids, regardless of what it looked like, there were low points and there were high points, right? But either way you looked at it, they were all amazing points. There was so much to be gained in all of it. And then how fast they shift their gears.
Yeah. And I'll hit on that too, because it's funny you just said that. So you maybe didn't find the gemstones that you wanted to or thought or expected to, but you got something else out of it, which was this gentleman's passion for what he does and teaching others and sharing it. Well, the night this first star party, it was a full moon. So the brightness of the full moon, there wasn't an ability to see certain stars. I mean,
that's why I was surprised when you said you guys
so
were doing
bright.
that. Yeah, because it's like, you can't see as much. We found out when it's dark outside, you see the stars, amazing. When the moon's out, it's like, damn it.
Yeah. And so it wasn't, and I wasn't disappointed because the things he was telling us was really fascinating and interesting. But he was like kind of bummed that there was a full moon, but still expressing his passion and joy about it. And I think it was just a similar experience, different topic. I mean, you and I every week, it seems like we have these parallel experiences, and then we can come and talk, and it's interesting how that works for us. You're doing stones and I'm doing stars, so awesome, so incredibly fun.
It is.
All right, friends, there we went from passion to giving people space to writing out your frustrations. Like, we covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time, and there's a lot to be heard and to implement. So whatever it is that resonated with you, please implement it into your life. The one thing, listen to it, listen to the recording, and implement one thing. What gave you the goosebumps, the god bumps, the chill bumps? What resonated with you? And take that information and implement it into your life. My biggest ask of anybody, and this is what I practice on a daily basis, is to be and do better in yourself, and then you show up in the world differently. And to me, that's the biggest task, is to learn to be and do better in yourself, so that you can be that example out in the world as well. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to go out and start a podcast or anything. Just be an example of a better you. So if you have any information in this recording that you enjoyed and you would like to share it, please do. There are other people out there who would benefit from this information as well. And we are found on many different platforms. We're on YouTube. We're in social media, Facebook, Instagram. We're on Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio. We're in many, many platforms. So please share the information, at least have the conversations, and help others. So with that, do you have any other final words before we wrap up?
Make a magnificent week.
There you go. All right, my friends, take care, and we will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out with us.